Types of neutralizing energy when we are doing these exercises. There's more than three, but there's three that we train. The first one is a classic jelly body where you dissipate and ride the energy. So if I can borrow you. So if he pushes on my shoulder, I let it go. He's making my arm swing. He's making my shoulder lift. This all happens, some just jelly. So what I do is, as his force touches, it's sort of like surfing. I put my surfboard on the edge of the wave and I ride it. And I give it a little bit of my own juice, but he's doing most of the work. And it makes my arm lift. But my Tai Chi form is coming into shape and I'm letting it go through optimal shapes as I ride the energy. Now, if I made him do 100% of the work, you push, that would happen. And if I loosen a little bit more, now my body is absorbing more of the force before I dissipate it. That means if he's punching really hard, it's going to go and then dissipate. So what I do is I get the leading edge and I move with it and I stretch my body so I give it a pathway so I can ride the energy out. And that will just remove the energy. So I'm letting this stretch to my hand and I ride the energy so that the energy can come out of my hand. And I'm setting up the positions in my body for that to happen. So that's the most efficient way for the least amount of impact here. If I let him come in a bit more, and as he pushes, I drop my hip, stretch my spine. This comes to the second method, where I relax and release using an internal model. So I'm tuning into the feeling of life force. His energy touches, and I absorb into the feeling of life force as I sink. So a partial percentage is dissipating out. Another part of the percentage is going down and giving me a potential for a counter force. So I can put that energy back into him. So as I drop, I send the energy down. And less energy is being dissipated through my arms. And more energy is being absorbed into the life force and into the root. Then the third method of neutralizing is where I don't want to lose a drop of his energy. As he pushes in, I send it all back to him. There's a slight increase in pressure on my feet, but I don't want it to reach my feet. I don't want to ground it into the earth and lose it. I want it to get fully absorbed into my fascia, into my life force, and return. So every time I'm touching here, I'm in reality taking his force, bang, and taking it from the speed he's giving me, absorbing it and sending it back at him at the speed I want him to receive it at. So in this case, I'm doing it slowly, he can put it in fast, and I have to transform and return it at a rate at which my rate of relaxation will allow me to do that. Or he can put it in slow, I absorb and send it back fast. So you can, once it's stored in the body, you just add a little bit to it and fire it at a speed at which is appropriate for you. So you can change the rate. You can do it at exactly the same rate. He feeds in slow and I rebound slow. What I don't want to do is drop it on the ground, because then I've lost it. But if I drop it into my body, I can keep most of it. So I've got to load it into my stretch. And my skeletal structure is the frame of a slingshot. The elastic is my fascia, and I drop it down on the frame, and the elastic stretches and absorbs all the force, and a minimal amount gets pushed into the ground. So I want to keep as much of his force in my stretch and energy as possible. So the three methods. One, you ride the energy and you just release. And the second method is you send it down and you neutralize, going downwards. And when you're going down, you're filling your body with spherical energy. So as he pushes, you tune in to the life force and you neutralize, and your rebound potential is there. And you're just sending it down to the ground through your life force, absorbing as much of it as you can. So a certain amount gets lost and a certain amount rebounds. And then you set it up for the rebound and you're focusing on how you're going to neutralize and discharge it in the third stage. You want to train all three of these because Sometimes you don't want the energy, you just want to ride and dissipate it off. You don't want to return, you don't want to hit a person with it, you don't want to absorb it, you just let it go. And that's a scenario where you're walking down the street, someone bumps into you, and it's sort of like, ooh, just let the energy go. Just get out of the way of it. And you want to ride that energy and not even let it touch you. You just take it off and leave the balance off. And then you have the situation where you want the transformation health value out of it, like iron shirt training. He throws a punch, you send it down, you practice absorbing and building up your protective chi. Then you have the rebounding, where you teach your chi to attack the incoming force, and that's where we're rebounding, bouncing the force back from martial arts. So the third one is what you guys were just doing, where you're feeding the force in and rebounding the energy back at your partner by absorbing, transforming into life force, and rebounding it. The first two, or the first one, riding the energy, there's no breath hold that takes place. To dissipate the energy, you need to breathe out instantly. So just let it go. Now, if I hold the integrity, he puts a force here, and I pause momentarily, that means I can absorb and load his energy into my body, and I can rebound it. I'm holding integrity of my diaphragm and stretch, so that I'm in a position to absorb before I naturally breathe. If I breathe out straight away, it'll dissipate. I can't store that energy. On the out breath, you dissipate energy at a very, very fast rate internally. So the analogy of the powerlifter who pauses, goes, and then lifts the weight, that little bit of a pause gives maximum integrity to the fascia and connective tissue to transfer load. So internally, when you're issuing, you'll always find yourself, you have that little pause where you get the load and then you breathe out as you release the load. So he pushes on me with both hands, nice and strong. Right at that moment, and I breathe, my body wants to measure how much force he puts in, so it wants to hold for a fraction of a second. You've got to make that fraction of a second almost natural, so that you issue and this goes and it issues, and it's very, very small, but you need it. If I want to bounce him and he puts in and I breathe out, I lose a percentage of energy anticipation while I'm breathing out if I haven't caught that moment first. So some schools of thought are, oh no, just natural breathing. If you breathe out, you're riding the energy. So you want to feel this inside your subconscious timing. Now, if you hold for too long, your energy stagnates. So you've got to learn how to keep the integrity of your elastic stretch through breath control and minimize that holding point. But your body needs that to measure the amount of mass that's on your body. It's just part of your physiology. You may reach a point where you just can breathe naturally right through it. As you're doing the issuing, it's not a problem anymore. There's no lost energy. You're not dissipating energy off to the side. You're storing it all and rebounding. If that point arises, just of course flow with it. But your tuning fork is what works best. You tune in to what gives you the best result, and then you tune in and deepen the breath from that best result to make the result better. So you track it on the results you're getting. That's how you breathe. And it'll always lead back to natural breathing, but you certainly don't start with natural breathing. When you're doing vital breathing, for instance on building the bull, you quickly realize that in order for me to hit peak, I have to adjust my physiology and I have to adjust my breathing to accommodate my out breath to hit that peak. If I just naturally breathe, the energy thins out. Natural breathing does not produce peak power. Controlled breathing brings me into peak power. That means I can control my out breath. I need to relax the muscle, hang it, open the joint, stretch, and the peak power arises in my body. So it's controlled breathing. But after you do a few years of controlled breathing, your breathing is quite natural and you're hitting peak power. So when people say natural breathing, yeah, it's natural after a few years, or at least a few months if you're doing it 24 hours a day, constantly focusing on it. Okay, so have a play with these three stages of neutralizing, three types of neutralizing, should I say. 1, 100% release. 2, You absorb, neutralizing ground, so you're losing energy from the ground and a little bit out through the arms, but you have the Qigong effect in it. You're inside the life force feeling. The first one has no life force feeling, purely mechanical, and it's just riding and dissipating the jelly body of Tai Chi. And then your last one is pure absorption, storage, and rebound. So you're taking energy and giving a really pure returning force, and you don't want to lose any energy. Whatever they give you, you absorb it and fire it back. And you can fire it back at a different rate at which they give it to you. They can give it to you really fast. You can absorb it and then slow down and then give a slow bounce in return. It doesn't have to match the speed. Matching the speed is the easiest way to learn it, but as you're absorbing and transforming it, you can send it out any way you want. You can absorb it, store it, and hold it there, and then bring it back and go bang and release it, because it's energy. If you've transformed it into this stuff, you can put it anywhere you want. When we're working on basic rebounding, we have the timing of his mass stretching my body. As my body stretches, it puts a counter force like a slingshot back. Then it's set by the timing of the feeder. I have to match the timing if I'm working purely off the stretch. As soon as you start transforming the life force, you can change that timing to whatever you want, whatever works best for you. And usually you've got to transform and change the energy a bit faster than them, so you can pull the balance out, so you can lead them. So you need a more accelerated timing than the opponent to make it work most efficiently. Okay, partner up, have a play.